Welcome to Bollox Talks and Tangents. As you can see, I don't have my normal co-host Derek, but I do have Captain Mayhem, and today we are talking about pirates.
Aye.
Yeah, aye.
I'm all about pirates.
I have two of those. Aye. And Captain, I want to say thank you for coming in because you kind of filled in for me last minute.
Very last minute.
And I appreciate it.
We hope that everything with Derek is going well. I love the guy. He's terribly funny.
He's a hilarious guy. He'll be back here next week.
Good.
And in 2 weeks, Derek and I are going gator hunting.
Are you really?
So I'm taking an Irishman who's never killed anything in his life to go gator hunting. Florida boy taking it out. See, I got my Florida flag. You're representing Ireland today.
Aye, that's all right. I can do that.
Could be the tallest Irishman I've ever seen.
I might be.
Yeah.
I'm no leprechaun. But so you're going to take him gator hunting. Are you letting anybody know where you're going? Or are you going to keep it a secret?
It's down in Sanford because when you win your tags, they have a gator lottery. So there's like 17,000 people get in this gator lottery that you draw, and I won two of the tags this year.
Really?
So Derek's come along with me. We're going to try and film it. Hopefully neither one of us fall out of the boat.
Well, I'm feeling very powerful because we just moved into a new house, and last Sunday I had to kill an attacking moccasin, and he was a big one. He was almost 5 feet.
Yeah.
He was big.
Coming from Florida, the moccasins are kind of slow compared to rattlesnakes. So moccasins really don't scare me that much.
Yeah.
Because you can walk away from a moccasin. But there's certain snakes that are a little spookier. And we had a thing about the morning show with spiders.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not afraid of spiders. But
I don't like spiders either.
I was going to say a lot of the toughest people I know don't like spiders.
When I was a little boy and we lived in Tucson, Arizona, I actually went rattlesnake hunting on a regular basis. Wasn't feared of them at all. But I've reached that point where I'm over 60 now, and a snake bite from either of those two could be fatal.
You could lose an appendage at that point.
You could lose an appendage. You could lose anything. So I that one, I had picked up a big piece of wood, and there he was coiled underneath it. I have no idea how I got from that point to 15 feet back without touching the ground, but I'm pretty sure I did an Olympic-style double flip.
Well, I mean, you probably have seen The Matrix several times.
Yeah,
and it just kind of took over by nature.
It scared me.
And you were the one. But first thing we have to do is we actually have to thank our sponsors.
All right, let's do that.
We have 5 amazing sponsors.
Cool.
We have 900 Degree Pizza and Pasta. Absolutely. Blake, you can join in too and tell us how good is their pizza, Blake?
Their pizza is actually really good.
It's really good.
I haven't heard of them yet. So
it's right here off of Lewis Speedway.
All right.
Close to the high school, that little plaza between where we're at right now. We're near the jail.
Right.
Ironically.
Yeah. And pirates get nervous with that.
Yes. Well, you're safe. You're in a hidden cave. Studio B's looking good today.
It is.
I got to thank Pete because Pete stepped up. If you watched the show last week, Pete really stepped up Studio B. We got the TV up. We have we're not doing whiskey of the week because we're pirates this week.
That's right.
So we're doing rums of the week.
And I thought that you'd like that nice pirate rum there.
Yeah, and us cheers to the pirate rum. It's from Guyana, what I read.
Yep.
And it's actually bottled in Las Vegas.
Yep. And it's good.
Yeah.
You didn't even need Coke for it.
No. And I'm rattling around my ice. Can you hear it pretty bad, Blake? Blake's got the headsets on. He's literally looking at me like, you got too much ice in your drink. Good to know next week.
So that's one of your sponsors.
Yeah. So Abare Kresge and Associates.
Aye.
They've been my accountant, and a lot of people know I have a lot of different businesses. I'm not an easy person.
You're a pirate.
Yeah. I'm not an easy person to be the accountant for.
Right.
And they've kept me out of trouble. And Billy Abare over there and King Kresge, wonderful human beings, people you can truly trust. And that's what you want in an accountant.
Yes, especially if they're handling, or not necessarily handling, but advising you on your money and taking care of it proper.
Yeah, and they really do. The other one is the Beacon Listening Room. Have you been there yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's right beside Gypsy Cab.
Aye.
So they have live music pretty much every single night. And the only night they don't have live music is trivia night.
Trivia night.
And you've been to the trivia night.
I've been to your trivia, but not there yet. So I guess I'll have to come over.
You need to come over there because it's just an absolute blast.
I enjoy coming in and having a drink, not necessarily playing your trivia, but watching and listening to everybody else come up with some of the answers they come up with.
Some of them are really bad. And usually, like, when they want to really dig at me, they'll throw my name into the answer. Just to, especially if it's something bad. Especially if it's something bad. All right. And the other one we have is we have two others. I'm going to let you handle the last one. I don't know if you can see it on the list there.
I can see it on the list.
All right. Meehan's Irish Pub. All right. Meehan's Irish Pub is an Irish pub right downtown. Has a great view of the bayfront, right on the bayfront. And the cool thing about Meehan's is it has 3 different bars.
Yes.
It has the oyster bar up top, has the main bar in the restaurant area there, and then it has the backyard. So you can have 3 different. If you want a pub crawl, you don't even have to leave the bar.
I like that kind of a pub crawl,
too. You don't have to leave the same bar. You can pub crawl within the same bar.
But I would recommend that you do the upstairs first.
Yeah, that's well. And I'm gonna give a secret out because there's about 25 people watching right now. All right, the upstairs bathroom's always open.
Yes.
So if you're downstairs, you're waiting for the unisex bathroom. Upstairs bathroom.
It is.
That's a secret of Meehan's.
Yes, so, I like that. And they have good drinks.
They have great food.
And they have good food, very, very good food. I like their food, too.
Yeah.
I don't get a chance to get downtown and do as much as I would like to at times, but Meehan's is one of my go-to places.
All right, and our final, but definitely not least,
the St.
sponsor.
Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum.
Yes.
I wasn't even aware.
Yes.
I actually had told Cindy this morning I was going to come on the show tonight. She didn't say one word to me about it.
She didn't tell you?
She didn't tell me.
Oh, she's so sneaky.
Yeah, so the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum, probably one of the #1 places for everybody to go to visit when you come to St. Augustine. And you're going to get pirate history. If I'm there, you get to take a tour with me. I do public tours, especially on Fridays and Saturdays, and you'll learn a little bit more about pirate history. Not that stuff that Disney teaches, but we really talk about real pirate history.
That's what we're going to get into today. We're going to get into some stories today. Like when I was, and this is what I love about going down these tangents. We're talking about the tangents we research, and Derek and I had such a blast last week. We ran out of time. We forgot how much time we had. So hopefully that means we had a good show.
When I do my podcast, not trying to give a quick plug, but when I do my podcast, if we go over time, it just means that our guest has been good and the questions have been good and the people throwing stuff in. So, and you're not limited, so what the heck?
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this, like, and a lot of the stuff, and you and I both brought in reams of stories. And a lot of stuff I found out this week, you probably know from the Pirate Museum already.
Some of it, but some of it is not from the Pirate Museum.
Yeah.
The Caesar story we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
We don't have that because that's 75 BC.
Yeah, and the Pirate Museum is mostly focused on what we're going to call the Golden Age of Piracy. Golden Age of Piracy.
There is at least one pirate that's outside of that.
Yeah.
And that's Sir Francis Drake.
Yeah.
He's in the 1500s. Golden Age of Piracy, 1680s, 1720s. But here's what I tell everybody about Sir Francis Drake being in the Pirate Museum. We live by the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules.
Yes.
Sir Francis Drake happens to be Pat Croce's favorite pirate of all.
Really?
Yep.
I thought it was Blackbeard.
I know.
Didn't he write a movie about Blackbeard?
Nah. So he likes Sir Francis Drake. Very interested in the history of Sir Francis Drake, and since the golden rule is he who makes the gold makes the rule has the gold. Well, guess what?
That's who makes the rules.
That's it. He can make the rules and put Drake anywhere.
It's his museum.
It's his museum. I am just.
And Pat's I need to get Pat on the show and just talk a little bit about his life. He's just an interesting guy because he started as a physical therapist or something, and ended up being the one of the owners of the 76ers, and just a real fun guy to have a conversation.
He does motivational speaking. If you're worried about timing of your show, you might as well throw that out the window.
That won't be a problem. That won't be a problem at all.
He will give you all the information and all the conversation that you can handle and some.
Yeah. All right. So let's dig into a little bit of the pirates because some of the things that interest me is we always hear about the pirates and you think of Johnny Depp and the Pirates of the Caribbean, but that era is what most people are associate with pirates.
Right.
They associate the Golden Age. But piracy started way before that.
The running joke amongst pirate historians is the very first pirate was the very second boat to ever hit the water.
Yeah.
That basically says it right there.
That pretty much says it. And one of the things, and I'm wondering, because you're still president of the which group are you the president?
I am the captain of the St. Augustine Swashbucklers.
The Swashbucklers.
Yes.
So I don't, if I ever get something wrong, correct me, because that's why I got you here.
No worries, no worries.
Okay, that's why I got you here, because I mean I've done a week of research, and you've been living this.
Well, I've been at the Pirate Museum for 11 and a half years.
Yeah,
I couldn't. It's really something, especially if you figure that in 11 and a half years, I've probably done over 9,000 tours.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah, and I bet the stories get better and better each time.
Some of them.
My baseball stories, I get better and better. I get faster and stronger and everything.
Absolutely.
So, but one of the things here's the question I have: as I was doing my research, I'm looking at the Vikings, and I'm going, did they professionalize piracy? Because in my opinion, like before then, it was kind of sporadic and all over the place. But the Vikings, it was their entire lifestyle.
It was their lifestyle, and Norway, Denmark, and Sweden was primarily where they were from, and they left there. And they were a combination of pirate and explorers.
Yes.
They were bold enough to go out into the world where nobody had been. And there's even stories, there's even evidence that the Vikings hit the North American continent way before everybody else.
Yeah, it talks about Greenland and getting that far out, and them possibly being the ones that discovered an accurate use of a compass. So they used water and
they had a water float compass.
Yeah, a water float compass. So they've kind of professionalized that, and they shared it amongst themselves.
And they had to have at least that kind of navigational equipment, because there was no longitude back then. So whatever they were studying, everything was latitude only. So that the water-based compass was their way to determine north and the directions they needed to go. So I think they probably could be credited with the fact that when they're kind of like Genghis Khan, because when they take over a place, they didn't just take over; they owned it. They created their society there, and married off is probably the nice way to put it. To propagate more young boys for Viking work.
Well, I mean, one of the jokes, and I wish Derek was here because he'd appreciate this joke. There's, the women in England aren't that pretty because the Vikings took them all back to Norway. So,
but
there's actually a little bit of truth to it.
There might be a little bit of truth to it.
There's a little bit of truth to it, because genetics is a real thing.
But the Vikings would capture and enslave people, and that enslaving is in all cultures. But the Vikings would branch out, take over, take what they needed, and move on. But they did it the way more modern-day military units did it, where they did not ruin their supply chain. They had a way to go backwards too. So, commercialize their time as being a pirate.
And in my research, and I didn't realize this until, like I said, Duke, I got down this tangent, is I didn't realize how many trained officers became pirates. From the British, from the Spanish, and trained actual seamen became pirates, because if they tried to work on a merchant ship, they got treated worse on the merchant ship than they did the pirate ship.
And the military in the Navy, especially in the 1600s, 1700s, even into the 1800s, British Navy, Spanish Navy, and French Navy, those are the three main superpowers of the time. Unless you were high up in the echelons of the military units, everybody else was treated badly. Worse than slaves at times, hardly paid properly at times, go for many, many months, if not 6 months to a year without pay. And a lot of them, they would be out in the ocean, out in the waters, doing what they thought they were supposed to be doing for God and Queen and King and country, and then they unknow is right for that. They have no clue that the war that they're fighting is over.
It's over,
and they're still doing it. This brands them then as pirates at times. Some of them were privateers.
Yeah, they had to have papers to be privateers. I learned that in my tangent. They had to have papers to be a privateer.
A lot of people argue on the privateer thing that
I'm sure a lot of them were falsified.
Some of them might have been, but it was a genuine good thing to get a letter of marque or a letter of marque from the French that branded you a privateer, which allowed you to go out. Sir Francis Drake was a privateer.
Yes.
In the name of Queen Elizabeth I. So he could attack any of her enemies, which was Spain.
Mostly Spanish, yeah.
And Spanish for sure. That's why he came here and destroyed St. Augustine in 1586. But a lot of people, they think that privateers and pirates are very separate. It's a very gray line between the two.
It was just a piece of paper.
It was just a piece of paper. Or here's how I like to tell everybody the difference between a privateer and a pirate. Which end of the weapon are you standing on when we meet?
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. That is the basic idea of what a privateer or a pirate is.
All right, I want to go way back.
Go ahead.
Way back. Julius Caesar time.
75 BC.
75 BC. And this story I had no idea existed. And this is what I love. I had no idea that Julius Caesar was kidnapped by pirates.
He was a teenager when he was kidnapped.
Oh, I thought they said he was 25.
Was he 25?
I think they said he was 25.
I'm going to look at my notes just to make sure.
I think they said
you're right. I'm. You know what? I'm crossing the stories because
St. Patrick.
St. Patty.
Yeah, we're not going to go there because that story I couldn't get enough facts to make it to where I could actually say, okay, this is the story.
Yeah, I had the same problem when I was researching late last night.
So that's why we're sticking with the Julius Caesar, because Julius Caesar's story is very detailed.
So he was on his way to study in Rhodes, a location, and he was
where the term Rhodes Scholar comes from.
That is
okay,
right? And he let's see if I can remember. And some of the stories some of the notes that we know about him are done from Plutarch's Parallel Lives. But when Julius Caesar was captured, in fact, we can leave the notes away because it's so funny and so interesting.
Yeah.
He was captured at 25, and while he was on board this pirate ship, he was so snooty to them.
He was giving commands.
He was telling them what to do. He was playing dice games with them and making them feel bad when they were losing.
He was making them listen to speeches. And they had him for 38 days.
Yes. The other thing he did...
You know what a pain in the ass he had to be?
I don't understand why they didn't kill him. But I think they were wanting...
They really wanted the money.
They wanted the money, and they were going to ask 25 talents.
They were asking 25 talents.
And he laughed at them.
He actually laughed. He goes, you guys way undersold it. And they ended up getting the 50. He's like, you should ask at least 50.
And he sent messages out, and they sent the 50 talents from the people that knew him to get him released. But he swore up and down that he was going to make their life miserable, and he did.
Oh no! They gave him back. I don't understand the reason why they gave him back. It could be the worst pirates of all time.
Yeah.
All right, and they gave him back, and as soon as he got back, he sent troops after them.
He went with them,
and he captured them.
He captured them. He
captured them. He identified them. Some of them died during that little battle, and then they brought them back, and they crucified him.
They did. He was not happy with the fact that they just wanted to let them, the powers that be wanted to let them just languish in prison. He didn't want that. He wanted them punished.
No,
he went down and dragged them all out and crucified all of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
with no repercussions,
none whatsoever. They didn't punish him in any way, shape, or form. And
I'm Julius.
And Julius Caesar.
But it sounds like for those 30, I can just imagine him on the boat for those 38 days just torturing these guys, like being just a brat. That's the way it sounded when I read it.
And what's so funny about it is he had them buffaloed. I mean, they didn't punish him. They didn't slap him around. They didn't beat him up.
Yeah.
He
walked amongst them.
He did. And when he was going to sleep and they made noise, he'd tell them they had to shut up.
Shushed them.
He'd shushed them so he could get his rest.
I saw that too.
It's an amazing thing that I think Julius Caesar was probably just Julius Caesar his whole life.
Yeah. No.
Can you imagine what he did to his parents?
Yeah. I'm the king. I am the Caesar. But I mean, I didn't even know that existed. Like I said, we talked a little bit about St. Patrick, but I couldn't get the details of that.
Right.
But this story was so documented, and it was from 75 BC.
Yes. Yeah. It's when I first read it.
I mean, the Bible was written like 200 years later. Mm-hmm. And we got details of this story. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's pretty amazing. what the Roman Empire was able to do.
These pirates thought that he was a joke, and he proved that the joke was on them, not him. Because when he went after them, he captured them all, and then to crucify them. That was a famous punishment for the Romans, for anybody that needed extra punishment, was to be crucified. So it's a great story. I love the story, and I share it once in a while.
I didn't know, and that's what I'm enjoying about this show, is I'm learning some new things that I didn't know existed.
And that's one of the things about the Pirate Museum that I enjoy too, because I know what I know, and I put it into my tours, and we talk. But I'll have somebody come up to me and say, "Did you know this?" And no. In fact, sometimes I get letters addressed to me through the Pirate Museum of people that have done some extra research and sent it to me and said, here's something else that you might want to know.
Yeah.
So people are really interested in history.
Yes. Oh, they love it. And they love stuff that can come back. And St. Augustine, pirates have an association to St. Augustine.
They surely do.
All right, and here's one of the things, and we're gonna move on from the Julius Caesar thing. Some of the things from pirates that I thought was a myth and wasn't a myth. One of the things, the arg, and the how you talk actually in the museum sometimes and stuff like that. It came more from Treasure Island, the book,
and then the movie Long John Silver.
And the movie Long John Silver.
And the movie Long John Silver is 1956.
Yeah.
And the character, or the actor they had to play the character, he was. His name was Robert Newton, and Robert Newton had a raspy voice. It was more like that, and he was telling everybody, "I'll take me rum. I'll take the cat of nine tails to your backside. You'll be walking the plank." All of that came out of Treasure Island.
Yeah, and we did word origins last week.
Okay.
All right, so we did word origins last week, and we talked about "Cat's Got Your Tongue," and one of the origins of "Cat's Got Your Tongue" is they would use the cat of nine tails on people, trying to get them to talk. So the cat of nine tails and the cat's got your tongue came from that.
So it's the same place that cat out of the bag came from.
Yeah.
Because they would keep the cat of nine tails in a bag on the rigging. And, if the quartermaster wanted to at least threaten you, the quartermaster was like my dad. Yeah. When I was a kid, my dad would call my name, and the second time he called my name, his hand was on his belt. That was a sign that if the third time I was going to get beat.
Yeah.
So the cat of nine tails is on the rigging in a bag. And the whispering would go around, you better be careful, they're going to bring the cat out of the bag. And that's where it came from.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right, and I want to do a different word of origin each week. So this week's word of origin is rule of thumb.
Ooh.
Do you know what a rule of thumb, where it came from, rule of thumb?
Did it have anything to do with measuring something with your thumb?
It has somewhat. There was a judge in England that said you could not beat your wife with a stick wider than your thumb.
Oh.
And that became the rule of thumb. So that is the morbid way rule of thumb became a phrase in origin.
Wow.
It was illegal, and we're talking in the 1700s, close to this time that we're talking about with the golden age of piracy. Is the rule of thumb came from that.
Well, I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. So,
not that I would be wanting to beat any of them.
I'm pretty sure your wife's beating you.
My wife keeps me in line.
All right, are you ready to try?
Yes, let's try another one.
Let's try the apple.
Yes.
And this one's from Jacksonville. I picked this up at a festival here in St. Augustine. Wonderful, wonderful people. I met the people that make this. Just wonderful people out of Jacksonville. Super nice sipper. I'm going to give you that. So that way we're not too messy. I got a driver, and you have a driver too if you need it.
Yeah.
So
should I tell everybody what my wife said when
when she's coming anytime, and this happens a lot, anybody who's coming to see me. So what does she say?
Troy, you messaged me about 9 o'clock last night to ask if I could come on the show. I didn't see it till about 9:45, and I messaged you and said sure, and we talked for a few minutes. On via Facebook, but my wife was asleep already. So this morning when she woke up, I said, "Oh, by the way, I won't be home right away. I'm going out to the 904 studio to be on the show with Troy. It's his second week in the show, and tonight's show is about pirates, so we're going to be drinking some rum. The only words out of my wife's mouth, knowing that it was you, was, don't get drunk. Don't drink too much.
Don't let Troy take you down that road.
Yeah, so.
All right, so we're going to try this one. Let's tap.
All right, it smells good.
Tap. It tastes like a little apple pie. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, that's nice.
That's good, isn't it?
It is good.
It's good.
It's not got a harsh backbite.
No, it's good.
That's nice.
And it's called Monterey Apple Pie Rum, and it's out of Jacksonville.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
So it's a local. And the other one we're going to try is a Key West, and it's called Key West Chefs, and it tastes like key lime pie.
Okay.
So
very cool.
All right.
So what else you want to talk about on pirates?
So when I was doing my research, and this was some of the things that pirates created that I didn't realize, and I want to talk about the eye patch first, because I think this is the coolest thing, and I had no idea. The eye patch, and everyone associates pirates with an eye patch, and they'll wear a patch here.
Right.
I thought it was because they lost an eye. You know, see it on Pirates of the Caribbean. The guy's got the eye that the funny guy falls off, and it's always rolling around. But they wore an eye patch, not necessarily because they lost an eye. They wore an eye patch to help them to associate from being up on deck and going underneath. And they would literally take the eye patch and switch it over so they could see in the dark.
Absolutely, because, and there are some people that will argue this point till the sun goes down, but
well, we said it on this show, so now it's true.
That we leave it at that. That's fine. When pirates were prepared to board, and when the military was prepared to board, some of these pirates, each pirate had an assigned duty during the boarding. They had to do this, they had to do that. Some of the pirates were being assigned to go below deck and check for potential prisoners and for anything else down there that could be dangerous to the boarding. So when you go below deck, in all the movies, you see lanterns everywhere. You don't have open flames down below deck.
No,
not at all. For many reasons, and one of the reasons most people don't understand, and I'll touch on it in just a second, but if you knew you were going below deck, you had your eye patch on because you were in the sun. The minute you started down the gangway or the stairway or whatever way you're going, it starts to get dark. You switch over. That eye now that's been in the dark can at least see. So I tell everybody this is early night vision goggles.
Yeah,
I mean that's basically
that's exactly it. And it was really interesting that they were so creative with that. You never hear of British sailors or soldiers doing that.
No. But they did.
Did they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was common for them too.
Oh, okay. So it was regular.
Wasn't just pirates.
So we only find out about it because of the glamour or the glitz of a pirate. And
absolutely, that's it. But the British did too. I'm sure any of the navies they did that. It was a utilitarian tool for them. So here's one of the reasons, several of the reasons why you never had open flames down below. You had gunpowder, although it was kept in usually the coolest part of the ship. But you had rum. Some barrels of rum were very flammable. But the one thing and then of course you have wood everywhere, and then you had hay down below deck because you have animals.
Probably even the finishings that was on the wood was probably flammable.
Possibly, and then like you had hay because you had animals below deck. So that should give you the clue to what else you had below deck that you don't want. So here's the joke. Pirate washes up on beach, clothes torn apart, driftwood everywhere, the ship's gone, and the townfolk come up and go, what happened to you? What happened? I don't know, man, but that last call fart did us in.
Yeah.
Methane gas.
Yeah, well, I talked about this on last week's show. It's one of the words of origin.
Aye.
Shit.
That's it.
Ship high in transit.
That's it.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a real thing.
It was a real thing.
It was a real thing, and that's the reason when they moved the manure, and when the animals, and I talked about them doing manure for fertilizer, but when they moved the manure, they put it in the barrels, and it was they would use it for later, and it would be SHIT would be stamped on the top, ship high in transit, and that's 100% true.
So you didn't go down below deck with candles?
Not with the lantern. Not with the lantern. No.
And they had.
Because everything was airtight.
Yes, but there were pieces of glass. I have one in my collection that's a deck called a deck prism, and it was something that was embedded into the wood in the deck or the sides of the ship, most of the time the deck though, that allowed light to come down through. And I'll have to show it to you sometime.
Oh, okay, so it kind of set and
It
went
sets
from the deck.
from the deck down below, and they would define it on.
So like they invented skylights too.
Basically, that's what it was.
They invented skylights. See, pirates invented so many things. All right, here's
another one. What's the other?
Here's the one thing that I feel is very important to the workforce today.
Yes,
Pirates invented workman's comp.
they sure did. Absolutely.
By what they did is if you talk about Captain Hook from Disney and stuff like that, and the peg legs, and you think of those things with pirates. But if you did lose a hand, or you did lose a foot in a sword battle, or any type of battle, or a disease, you actually were paid more.
You were given more money
for losing an appendage, and they had a chart. Yeah,
they did. They had a chart, a body part chart, so to speak.
Yeah. By the way, lawyers still have a body part chart.
Do they really?
Yeah. So like if you lose a finger, and you go to court, this is how much it's worth.
Well, guess where they probably got it from?
Yeah, it
they
probably came from pirates. Well, yeah, who's a better pirate than a lawyer?
I think lawyers are a little lower.
I'm trying to get a lawyer to be a sponsor right now, so I probably should behave myself.
I probably shouldn't say what I was going to say then.
No, say it.
All right, so evolutionary scale, you have lawyers, and then you have pirates. The pirates are one rung up higher.
There you go.
Right, but yeah, they did have a workman's compensation that they paid their pirates for their injuries. And they were continually, so say you lost a hand and you were given an extra 10 pieces of silver for it. Mm-hmm. Every time there was a division of the money, that we took another prize, we divide the money up, you're on the record to get that extra 10 pieces of silver every time. So say now the next time, you not only did you lose a hand, but now you've lost a foot, another 10. So now you're getting 20.
Yeah.
So we do that in this country. In fact, if
they changed your name to Lucky.
Yeah, that's the pirate that has a hook for a hand and an eye patch and a peg for a leg. His name is Lucky, and you don't want him on your ship.
No, it's not going to work out. And the part of this that was really kind of cool to me and interesting to me is how much power you talked about the quartermaster.
Yes,
how much power the quartermaster had, because the quartermaster even would tell the captain how much money he was getting. The quartermaster controlled, and I didn't realize it was the captains were elected, right. The quartermaster was elected,
yes.
And a lot of the chief staff was elected by the pirates on their own ship.
Yes, so
they had an electoral college. They invented that too.
Well, no electoral college, because on a pirate ship it was one man, one vote.
Oh, okay.
So every man had a vote, and you didn't need anything like an electoral college. The reason we have an electoral college here, which personally I believe our forefathers were intelligent to create this idea,
yes.
But there's a lot of people that don't like it right now.
Yeah.
I understand they're not liking it or they're discontent with it. But on a pirate ship, it was one man, one vote. Every man had a vote. But some of the things that people don't understand, when the captain was voted in place, mm-hmm. he might have several of the men that he had traveled with and bunked with, so to speak, and they were his trusted
yeah.
friends, and he wanted them to be his surrounding crew,
yeah.
his officers,
his executive, the executive crew.
He would propagate them by good words to the crew, and then the crew would vote on them. The crew would give the yay or the nay. Think about it. We do that in this country now. President of the United States becomes President of the United States. He wants a cabinet. He wants judges. He wants all these different things. But it's not automatic.
Yeah.
We have a voting process.
Yeah.
So the pirates invented this idea.
Yeah. Well, and we talked about electoral college and how it came to be in the United States. And I'm going off on a tangent.
That's all right.
Where I'm going. Right. A lot of people don't realize we didn't have a popular vote until the sixth president, which was John Quincy Adams. You know where John Quincy Adams finished in the popular vote?
No.
Third.
Really?
He finished third. Andrew Jackson actually had the popular vote. He became the president the next time around as the seventh president. But it went all the way back to the House of Representatives. John Quincy Adams was a member of the House of Representatives. So he was appointed from the House of Representatives to be our sixth president. He was a fine man, and he did a fine job as president. But the next go round, Andrew Jackson got enough popular vote and electoral votes. John Quincy Adams went back to the House of Representatives. And Andrew Jackson, who, by the way, and people have not made this connection, is why Jacksonville's named Jacksonville.
Right.
Is after Andrew Jackson. Before that, it was called Cowford, because it's where the cows forded the river.
Right. I knew that.
Yeah. So, sorry, I went off on a tangent.
That's all right.
But that's what the show's about. It's going off on a tangent.
I think it says so right there, tangent.
Yeah, it's right on the board.
Yep.
So that's what we have to do. All right. The other thing that I found amazing that pirates kind of created, they were the first crew to have a retirement plan.
Yes.
They would take
for the most part, if you were injured, most of the pirates didn't make it to retirement.
Yeah, well, most of them, kicked out.
The average lifespan, talking the golden age of piracy, and it could be the same for some of the other eras of piracy, but the average lifespan of most of these men was only 24 to 30 months.
Okay.
So they might not have made it to retirement. Now, if they did make it that far, or they were retired from a ship, it was primarily because they were injured so badly they could not provide what was needed for the ship, and that was the ability to fight.
Yes.
That's the primary need of a pirate crew, is to have every man able to fight.
And I'll tell you, like, I didn't realize this, because you see in Long John Silver and you see in Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that, you see them and it looks like it's an even match. But most merchant ships only travel with 12 to 15 crew members.
True.
Most pirate ships travel with 25 to 40 members.
Yes.
So it was already 2 to 1 before you started, and the captain made the choices of which ships they attacked. So, I mean, and so it was already kind of the pirates were at an advantage. They were probably better armed than the merchant ships. And a lot of the pirates came from merchant ships.
They did?
Because
or they came from privateer ships.
Privateer ships. But the merchant ships treated them so bad. Pirates didn't keel haul as much as the merchant ships did.
Right.
And keel haul was like the ultimate, where they drag them under. I remember watching Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yes.
You know, and just watching it, it was just like, because there was barnacles underneath, and they'd drag them underneath.
That's the one thing in the story of Mutiny on the Bounty. Mr. Christian is the second in command of the ship, and he's toying with the idea of not being a part of this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that turns him to create
when they
mutiny.
When they keel haul.
And they keel hauled. Keel hauling was terrible, and it was ugly. And if you survived it, your survival rate after it was over was only
because you got infections. You got infections from the barnacles and everything else.
It was terrible. You hope that sharks would come in and just eat you.
Well, and the funny thing is as I'm doing the tangent, I'm going down these searches and stuff like that. I assumed because of the movies that walking the plank was a real thing.
No,
it's not even a real thing. Keel haul was a real thing.
Keel haul was a real thing. Here's another one that might surprise you. You see it a lot, and you see it mentioned a lot in the pirate movies, that they'll take the cat of nine tails to you. Whipping by pirates was also reserved for extreme punishment.
Yes.
Because many of these pirates were ex-military. And in the military, whipping of the enlisted men by the officers was commonplace. And it was cruel.
Yes.
I mean,
and they got away from that being a pirate.
Yes.
And that's
why would they, as I tell people, why would they take to whipping and keel hauling when that's what the Navy did, and they didn't like it, and they left the Navy for those reasons?
For that reason.
So why would they do it themselves?
And the punishment I saw for pirates that broke the rules, and there was a lot of rules. Black Bart had a lot of rules.
Yes,
he was like he had a lot of rules. Would be they would just be left on a desert island.
That's marooning.
Yeah, they would be, and that was a real thing.
That is a real thing, and that law. Now, the punishments were sometimes, in many cases, decided by the crew too by vote.
Yes.
The crew voted on the punishment. But one of the major laws that all pirate ships had in their code was, no man shall lie, cheat, or steal against any other man in his crew. Ironically, they can do it to everybody else in the world, but not your crew.
Encouraged.
Yes. So, not your crew. And in the very first Pirates of the Caribbean movies, that's the one thing that Jack Sparrow gets in trouble for.
Yes.
And that's why they maroon him. They vote to maroon him. It wasn't a mutiny. The crew, he was brought up on charges. Crew voted him guilty. The crew voted his punishment. They marooned him.
Well, and the captains can be voted out.
Yes, they can.
They can be voted out.
Yes.
And like, I didn't realize that was a thing too. But a lot of these pirates didn't have long careers either.
No.
I mean, like a 4-year career was a long career in the Golden Age.
And the pirates that we know about, Sam Bellamy, Blackbeard, Thomas Tew, Calico Jack,
Black Bart.
These pirates lasted as long as they did, and their ends were all by violent means because their crew accepted them, and they were good captains. Mm-hmm. They accepted the idea as captains that they were going to provide for their men, and they were good leaders.
Yeah.
Not all of them were, but hey. So
all right. So one of the things that I didn't realize, and you have earrings.
I do. I didn't wear them tonight.
You don't have them on you but you're not on the boat.
I'm not on the boat.
And you told me there was 2 reasons for it. I knew one of the reasons, and I didn't realize this, but I understand it. One of the reasons is they were earrings. If you tug on an earlobe, and if you've ever spent time on a boat, it helps you with seasickness.
Right.
And I'm not sure why it does. It helps your balance or something like that, because that's where your balance comes from, your inner ear.
Right.
So I don't know if that's an effect or something like that.
It's a form of acupressure.
Yeah.
And
so
portion of the ear is acupuncture. So,
but I read the one about the seasickness for the earrings, which I didn't know. But when we sat down, you said there's another reason. What was the second reason?
The second reason is most of the pictures you see, and most of the times you talk to pirates that have one of their earrings is a solid gold earring.
Okay.
And solid gold was valuable back then.
Yeah.
That gold was enough money for, in some way, shape, or form, that when you died, you hope that was the gold that would take care of your
that would pay for your burial.
Your burial or your funeral. Okay. Now, when most of these men are out at sea, during conflicts and whatever, their burial was pretty much at sea.
Yeah.
So
they were wrapped tight, dropped overboard.
And that's what happened to Bartholomew Roberts. One of the reasons I like Bartholomew Roberts was that he was killed instantly by musket balls by the British Navy. His crew wrapped him up quickly before the British Navy could board their ship, wrapped him in canvas, put chains around his neck, around his feet, his ankles, and dropped him overboard so the British Navy could not take his body.
So they couldn't take his body.
And display it.
Yeah.
So, and then the entire crew stopped. They quit. Yeah. And he had a crew of about 37 men. Yeah. Might have been more, but 37 is the general consensus. Mm-hmm. And his crew laid their arms down and gave up. And they were all taken to the gallows, and they all willingly went to their hangman's noose together as a crew.
Put it around their neck and said,
that's the epitome of loyalty. If you think about it.
And let's talk about Black Bart a little bit. Because, we talk about, and this is the guy, when you talk about the rules of piracy and the rules of being on the ship and stuff like that, Black Bart ran a tight ship.
He did. He was also very Christian. Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
Yeah. No, I saw that too.
He was very Christian. There are two things in his rules and in his ways that prove that he was very Christian. Actually, 3. One, he actually removed most hard alcohol off his ship. The men were not allowed to drink hard liquor. They could drink grog, but they weren't allowed to drink hard liquor. 2, the 13th law of Bartholomew Roberts was that all ship's musicians had the day off. They celebrated. They were.
Oh yeah, they had to take off on Sabbath.
Yes, and so if you think about it, in sailing ships, without the ship's musicians, not a whole lot of work gets done. Mm-hmm. So basically, the whole crew had Sundays off.
Yes.
And 3.
And let's touch on that too, because I don't think people really understand that one of the key roles was the musicians and the bands that were associated with. They still had to fight. When the fight came down, the musicians still were pirates and had to fight.
But during the normal, everyday, tedious work of the ship.
Cleaning the ship, making sure the ship, and sailing, their job was to
play music.
To play music.
And so when we have, as you know, and many people may, we do close to 1,000 school tours a year in the museum. And the children, here's the way I explain the music to them. I ask most of the children, while you're doing homework at home, do you play the radio or music? And a lot of children do. A lot of people do. I mean, look at most people play music while they're working. Mm-hmm. Music makes the work seem less tedious, makes it easier to do.
Even people. Here's the ultimate torture, and I don't do this. I don't think you're a jogger.
No.
All right. Ultimate torture is jogging to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jogging. And what do to kind of make it go faster?
They play music.
They play music to make the torture go away.
The only time you're going to ever see me running is if I'm running away from something.
Yeah.
And my only goal is to be faster than you.
Yeah. Well, and I hike a lot in the woods.
Yeah.
And I realized this year I was the slowest hiker. I was like, I am the bait. I became the bait this year. I was the slowest hiker. I banged up my feet really bad. And I was the slowest hiker. I was like, I'm the bear bait.
You are.
So,
yeah. So Bartholomew Roberts had Sundays off, hard alcohol, but here's the third one. His crew was required to be present on the main deck of the ship while he stood at a specific time every day and read to them from the Bible.
yes.
He was a very religious man. And a lot of people don't think of pirates as being very religious, but if you think about it, a lot of the pirates, the majority of the pirates, especially during the golden age of piracy, which is pretty much what we're talking about now,
Yeah.
a lot of the pirates actually were British, French, Spanish, Catholic right there, Protestant British, or Catholic, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. All of them were Christians. Most of the pirates were Christians. So they just didn't act like it.
Yeah. No.
But they had a complete idea on what they wanted to do, and they had freedom to do what they wanted, and they weren't under the suppression of the government, the kings and queens.
Correct. During the Golden Age, who do you consider the premier pirate of the Golden Age?
Depends on if you want to go by popularity or success. Because if you ask 10 people, 8 or 9 out of 10 people, if you ask them who's the most well-known pirate or the most famous pirate around, what do you think they're going to say?
I think they're going to say Blackbeard.
Everybody does, Blackbeard.
Yeah, I think they're going to say Blackbeard.
But if you actually, and a lot of people, I always say, well, it's Bartholomew Roberts, and a lot of people go, well, who's that? Oh, Black Bart.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I've heard of him.
Yeah.
And you know why he was called Black Bart, right?
No.
He was Welsh.
Oh,
and a
okay.
certain portion of the Welsh.
I'm Welsh.
Some of the Welsh, you're certainly...
Blake, do you know we're Welsh? Blake probably didn't even know we're Welsh.
Now, Blake might actually fit this category more, but the skin color of many of the Welsh was quite darker or tanner. You don't fit
I'm
that.
not. I'm pasty.
You're pasty.
I'm actually opaque.
Yes.
If you're looking for the color of my skin, I'm
But
opaque.
he was a very dark-skinned Welsh, and that's how he got the name Black Bart. But he was very Christian, and a lot of the men were. They couldn't.
But he had a curfew at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
Like you weren't allowed. Like if you were allowed to stay on deck, but you had to stay on deck above 8 o'clock. You could not, if you didn't make it below deck before 8 o'clock and you woke people up, there was punishments that came along with Black Bart.
You weren't allowed to smoke on deck after 8 o'clock at night. There was no lights on deck after 8 o'clock at night. And there's a reason for that. You've been out on the water.
Yes.
You can see for miles.
Oh.
And way off in the distance, you'll see a light.
Yeah.
Don't know what that light is.
I can tell you one of the coolest things I've done, and I've done some really cool things in my life. And one of the coolest things I have done is with my good friend Captain Conan. He's also Patrick Conan, lawyer here in town. We took his boat from Turks and Caicos to the Bahamas. So we sailed through the Bermuda Triangle, and we didn't see anything, any type of life form for 5 days. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever done in life. And I can tell you this, you see a lightning bug 3 miles away. I swear you can see it that far away. And anything you're like, is that a life form? And it's amazing how far that reach is when you're out in the middle of the ocean. Because I don't think a lot of people have been where they can't see land for that long. You know, I mean,
I've been out
some people have been on cruises, but you're pretty much
on a cruise ship is way different than a sailing ship.
It's not the same.
No, some people may know, some people don't. I was one of the 5. Myself and 5 other mates brought the Black Raven here.
Oh yes, yeah.
In 2009, and it's not a sailing ship, but I say we sailed it. And
you brought it around.
We brought it all the way around. It was an 11-day trip.
Yeah.
And thank God it wasn't a 3-hour trip, and there was nobody named Marianne and the professor on board the ship. But or
Mr. Howe.
Or Mr. Howe. We took it out into the Gulf of Mexico as far as you could go, to a point where you couldn't see anything. You could see any lights. You could see the glow but you couldn't see anything else. And then when we went through Lighthouse Point in the Keys, we took it out into the Atlantic Ocean and then came back in. But we were out so far You can't see anything.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens out there is sound. Sound travels.
Oh, yeah.
And so you'll hear something and go, what was that?
Yeah.
What was that? Big splash, and go, what was that splash?
Yeah.
That was a big one. So, yeah, sound and light travel way far out there. And
in your 11 days, did you ever have a lightning storm?
Yes.
Oh.
And
that's different out in there.
Yeah.
That's different out there, too.
I will admit this so that Pete doesn't feel so bad. I did get sick one of the nights on that ship. I was miserable.
Did you have your earrings in?
I didn't have my earrings in. I was miserably sick. So, but you get out there in the middle of the ocean, and it's like being a pirate.
Yeah.
It really was like being a pirate.
All right. So here's my question. Then we're going to move on to St. Augustine mystery stories.
Okay.
All right. And we're going to switch. We're going to switch up. We got to try the key lime, and we're going to go there. Who do you have as your most successful pirate of all time? Like most successful pirate of all time?
It'd be a toss-up depending on how you argued it, but most people would agree that it is Bartholomew Roberts, who in his 38 months, he outlasted the norm by about 8 months. In his 38 months, took 467 ships. Mm-hmm. And I always like to throw in that his crew had Sundays off, so he did that on 6 days a week.
Yeah. It was part-time work.
Part-time work. And if you were to put the money into a situation, Bartholomew Roberts probably had in 38 months the equivalency of what we would have today as somewhere over $10 million in 38 months. That's a big haul.
Yeah.
But some people will say Samuel Bellamy.
Yes.
Because he went out, and he was a pirate for love.
He was considered the Robin Hood of the sea.
And he was a gentleman, so to speak, up to a point. But he took in a big haul.
He'd still cut your throat.
He would. Many of the pirates would. But he would still... His haul, there's a lot of people that argue over what his haul was. I can't even tell you what it is because there's so many different monetary ideas about it. But and then he lost it all in the end because when he came back into the harbor in Massachusetts, the storm had come up and it capsized his boat, and him and everybody on the ship was lost, and he died.
You were telling me he was a blacksmith and he was in love, and the woman he loved.
Yep.
Her father didn't think he was good enough for his daughter.
Nope. So he took off.
So he took off to become a pirate to make enough money. You know the song "Brandy" by Looking Glass?
Yes.
All right. So when you tell me that story, I think of Brandy.
That's actually a pretty good analogy.
I think of Brandy in the song "Brandy."
Yep.
So he went off, and even though his lover was the sea, he came back to her. And what happened then?
While he was gone, just after several months, 9 months after he left, give or take a month or two, she gave birth to his child. Mm-hmm. But because her parents were so prim and proper, and she was a woman that had child out of wedlock, they shunned her and pushed her off. And so she lived in squalor and poverty, and that was very bad back then, and nobody supported her, nobody helped her. And you know how the winter months are in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Her and the baby.
Yeah, because he wasn't a Caribbean pirate. He was a New England pirate.
He was a New England pirate, and and so the baby and the mother, his love, died. Mm-hmm. He wasn't aware of this, and he came back thinking he was going to see her, and his ship sinks because of the storm, and he dies too. It's a story for
love. I said, it reminds me of that song "Brandy." Yeah. You're a fine girl.
It's a total story for love.
Yeah.
But neither of them get to end their time.
All right. And one of the coolest stories I read was about Madame Ching.
Oh, yes.
She was a Chinese pirate.
She was.
Her and her husband were partners.
Wasn't her husband?
It was her.
She was I guess we could use that on this. She was a concubine.
No. She actually was completely attached to this gentleman, and he passed.
Yes.
And then she created an empire, and she had over 300 ships. She had between 20 and 30,000 people working for her. She was so powerful that the government came to her and said, listen, we're going to give you full immunity. And they actually gave her a stipend for every one of those people that worked for her. We just want you to go home.
Well, there was something else that she did too.
Uh-huh.
The Chinese coastline was having problems with raiders and other pirates.
Yes.
And because she was in love with China, and she was very very patriotic to her.
Yes.
So she made it a point for her and her pirates to kind of protect the coastline. Because of that, the government was willing to do this for her, and they granted them all immunity and pardons.
They granted every single pirate immunity.
Yes.
And she opened a chain of casinos.
Yes.
And she actually became one of the wealthiest people in all of China. And she died at this time, we're talking like 1400s. She died at the age of like 70 or 80.
Yes.
They don't know exactly how old she was.
Yeah, they don't.
But at that time, the average age was like 36.
So she lived a full life, a very powerful life, and a very productive life. And a woman.
And a woman in the 1400s in China. She probably had more rights as a woman in China than they do today.
Look, this may not go over with some people.
It's okay. That's what the show's about.
Good.
We haven't said fuck once on this show.
Oh, well, that's good.
I just want to make sure we're getting it in one time.
I truly...
4 times?
Yeah.
Blake said we said it 4 times.
4 times already?
Yeah, so, he says we have 4 minutes left. So.
Okay, so here's one of the things I like to tell people. In modern day time right now, we have so many people with talking about how everything is downtrodden. Women are downtrodden.
Yeah.
If you go back in history, this pirate, Madam Chi, is one. Anne Grace O'Malley, Anne Bonny, Mary Read. These people all made lives for themselves because they were powerful women.
Yes.
And if you look, I did some research.
Not just powerful women, powerful people.
They were powerful people.
Yeah.
And I did some research. I had to do some research a couple of years ago because I had to do a lecture via a Skype lecture to the University of Salford in Manchester, England. And they were curious about women in the pirate world that were attached to Blackbeard because it said that he married up to 17 women. But here's the interesting part. While I was trying to find that information, I found out that there were at least 6 or 7, 8 other women in colonial times, the 1600s colonial America, that were pirates.
Yeah.
Now, they don't make
a lot of those women dressed as men.
Yes, they did. And they don't make a major name for themselves. Madam
Ching was full on, I'm a woman and I'm powerful.
And one of the reasons they don't make a name for themselves is because, and this is what I tell people, you've got the golden age of piracy. It starts in the 1680s and in the 1720s. It's approximately 50 to 55 years. We don't know all the names of all the tens of thousands of men that were pirates.
Yes.
We only know the names of the ones
women, because they were unique.
They were unique.
And they weren't that they were unique.
Yes.
All right, we have to try this new wine. So you're in charge of grabbing that wine. I want to tell you, I have to say thank you to our sponsors again because we only have like 4 minutes left, and I got a very important St. Augustine question. You're pouring, sir.
Say when.
Good. Yep, because we only got 4 minutes.
4 minutes for the whole show?
All right, but that's all we got.
Have we been talking
We're
that
at
much?
An hour. We've been talking that much. All right, so I want to say thank you to 900 Degree Pizza and Pasta. If you haven't tried it, you got to try it. It's on Lewis Speedway. Check it out. Abare, Kresge and Associates, the best accountants in town. The Beacon Listening Room, they've done an amazing job. It used to be the old corner bar, and now they do music, except on Wednesdays. Trivia, come see me on Wednesday. On Wednesdays. Meehan's Irish Pub, just a staple of St. Augustine on the Bayfront. Check them out. Tom, Reggie, they do an amazing job. They have 3 very unique different bars. And, of course,
the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum. You can't go wrong by going there and learning about pirates. Come down and say hello to Captain William Mayhem and see our gift shop and our wonderful display of 850 artifacts on pirate history.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to try this one, and then I have a very important question for you.
All right.
Okay, that's a little tart. I'm not a fan of that. That's my least favorite of them.
Yeah, of the 3, that's my least favorite. It's not that I want to...
That's a dessert.
Yeah.
But it's not for me.
That'd probably be good if you mixed a little ginger ale in it.
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call.
Yeah.
So, and that is Key West Chefs, and it's a key lime. Yeah, key lime pie is much better than that. I'm gonna put that there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn the 904 towards this. All right, so here's one of the stories, and we're gonna shift towards St. Augustine unique stories, and we're gonna go over a little bit, Blake, and I apologize. All right, so this story, the fort used to be kind of stuccoed, it had plaster on it,
right,
and it was white with a red stripe around it to match the Spanish flag.
And the turret tops, I believe, were red also.
Yes. Yeah, and so it matched the Spanish flag is what it was. So I'm not sure in which invasion and whether or not this is even actually true, but I tell the story all the time. When it was white and it was plaster, we have the coquina shell in our fort. So when a cannonball hits it, it absorbs and it sinks into it. When it was white, there was a pirate or privateer that was attacking the city of St. Augustine. The captain of the fort would send people over the wall at night and paint over the cannonballs. So the next morning, when the pirates and privateers would wake up, they would think the fort was healing itself. Have you ever heard that story at all?
I haven't heard it in that version where the fort is healing itself. What I have heard is that attacks on the fort would happen and the cannonballs would absorb into the coquina. That one fact is true fact.
Yeah.
The cannonballs would absorb into the coquina. It's why the coquina walls would never break. Another version of it is that the captain of the fort would send men out at night to pry the cannonballs off, bring the cannonballs back, plaster back over or paint back over it, and then the next morning when the light comes up, the attackers would look and see no damage and wonder what had happened.
That's what I'm saying. And it was such a superstitious time.
Yes.
By the way, I might have had too much to drink. I couldn't say superstitious.
And the other thing that they did, and I don't want to give any negativity towards anybody that tells the story, but a lot of people say, well, once they pried the cannonballs out, then they turn around and they shot them back at the enemy.
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I don't know that that's true. It does make a good joke, and the good joke is that that's probably the first time that recycling began in the country.
Yeah, they created, so pirates might have created recycling. So, you know what? I want to say again, thank you, Captain, for coming in. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm glad we saved this one for the last. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad we saved this one for the last.
I am too.
I want to say thank you to everybody out there that was watching, and appreciate you guys coming in with us
tonight.
Bollox Talks and Tangents.
Yep.
Derek will be back with us next week. Thank you so much. I learned a lot about pirates from you, and that's the end of our show. Thank you guys.
I'd love to come back.
Blake, thank you. Amazing job. We'll see you next week.
Aye.